I want to remind you that there is this grotesque character, Lavrov's deputy, Galuzin. He issued an ultimatum to us, and with a deadline stating that in November, the issue regarding December will be finally resolved in December with the Eurasian Union. And also, he didn't mention something important, that the current gas agreement expires in December, and there need to be new negotiations, and it is clear to us from what position Russia will act. But if Russia cuts off our gas or raises the price, then our relations with Russia, in the form we currently have them, are not worth a dime. Therefore, this statement can also be seen as a preventive measure, in the sense that we have a plan B. This is a signal to Moscow, and the second signal concerns the railway. And by the way, this issue was also raised during the Prime Minister's speech, and it was said that the issue cannot but be resolved in the interests of Armenia, because it is about the fact that, yes, the conflict in our region has ended, but an era of, yes, competition has begun in our region. And we naturally must not ruin our competitive advantages for the sake of Putin and his clique. That is what we need to proceed from. And these statements were made that Armenia will submit an application to the European Union, and most likely we will receive a roadmap of actions in order to become candidates. And roughly when the picture becomes clear, and it is becoming clear now, then that is when this coveted referendum will take place, yes, which Putin demanded from us. You want a referendum, you'll get a referendum, but this, of course, must be strictly in accordance with our established plans, and certainly not, as you might suggest, according to your own personal whims, or, well, like a concert by request. There will be no concert.
Ruben, tell me, well, if the situation with the CSTO is more or less clear and Pashinyan's desire is clear, it would be good if we were excluded. But what about the EAU? It is clear that the main thing in the existence of a state is the economy of that state. Is it difficult to just end ties with the Eurasian Economic Union? Because the EU and the EAEU, as I understand it, are incompatible concepts.
Naturally. Well, speaking of the EAEU, we here need to make a distinction, right? Central Asian countries are one thing, Russia is another. And it's clear that if Russia effectively declared an embargo on all Armenian exports, then that, for example, did not change Kazakhstan's attitude toward us. And as is known, as it became known yesterday, President Tokayev will visit Yerevan in October, and they will discuss transport issues. So based on this, we think that we will get through this period and without the collapse that Russia is striving for. And yes, there is a certain there will be a certain transitional period for us to completely reset our entire import and export geography. And by the way, in this regard, Ukraine is also a key destination for Armenia in terms of diversifying both imports and exports for us.
Ruben, but still, if we talk about the threats that may come from the Russian Federation, it's clear Medvedev, Deputy Secretary of the Security Council, he writes a lot, he says a lot. But if we are talking about real threats, how are they perceived in Yerevan? What can the Russian regime do? What might they resort to besides blackmailing and taking all sorts of economic measures?
Well, what you've already listed is not insignificant. But it must be said that much of what you have already listed has already happened. Yes, and there is still gas. I think that living next door to the Middle East, in a huge gas-bearing region, Armenia nevertheless will solve this issue. And the Medvedev should just understand that they have made a very big mistake, right? And as the saying goes, if you've drunk milk after eating herring, there's no point in washing your hands anymore. That is what I would advise Medvedev. And there is nothing more to say here.
Ruben, how can you assess the European Union's attitude towards Armenia right now? I mean, on the European Pravda resource, there was an article like this, Cautious Pashinyan. What does Yerevan's restrained reaction to the European Union's unprecedented support mean? And it analyzes how Pashinyan is cautious about, not throwing himself straight into the arms of Ursula von der Leyen and so on. To what extent can you say that the European Union's support for Armenia is currently unprecedented? To what extent is the European Union currently investing in pulling Armenia out of Moscow's sphere of influence?
Well, first of all, two characteristics, unprecedentedness and sufficiency. Yes, it is unprecedented, but to say it is sufficient, no. But there are objective reasons for this as well. After all, out of all four of Armenia's neighbors, only Georgia has outlined European prospects for itself, and even that country is in a state of crisis in its relations with the European Union and the United States. And this situation creates very significant and complex difficulties for Armenia to navigate. Therefore, yes, this is clearly a major obstacle that still needs to be overcome, and we still need to carefully think about how exactly we are going to do that in the future. And so, while we are grateful for the support, we understand that there are also objective conditions. That is why now, in this government program, there is also such a concept as regionalization. Yes, a policy of regionalization. After all, when we look at the bigger picture, our region remains one characterized by currently closed borders and restricted movement, while simultaneously being a region defined by complex conflicts that, unfortunately, are not yet fully settled de jure, leaving many issues unresolved and lingering for the foreseeable future. Yes, de facto, it is already a region of peace, but this still needs to be legally formalized and the region made possible for logistics chains, which unfortunately is not yet the case. Therefore, we must recognize that this represents yet another front of painstaking work that requires our full and undivided attention.
Ruben, regarding the fact that Yerevan has decided to recall its ambassador from Russia. The other day, your colleague Armen Chabuchian was on our broadcast. He said that the Armenian ambassador to Russia is Moscow's man. And the recall of this ambassador from Russia is, a very specific sign, a sign for Moscow that, well, we don't want Moscow's man to be the ambassador in Moscow. What is your opinion on whether a new ambassador is needed, or is this démarche enough? And if there is a new ambassador, will he be Moscow's man?
Well, if we are being completely honest here, to claim right now that the current person in Moscow is simply Moscow's man, I really don't think that is the case at all, or at least it is not quite that simple. Before, yes, that was the case, but excuse me, even the foreign minister was Moscow's man at one time. Yes, just like in Ukraine before the Maidan. Yes, this practice was everywhere, but now it's not like that. And it's not even a fact that Moscow's ambassador is being recalled. But in the media, yes, such information was circulating, which at the moment has not yet received official confirmation. Moreover, I believe there was even a denial that anything like that is happening. But if it's not the case now, that doesn't mean it can't happen. If Moscow resorts to direct measures, well, if this Medvedev-style rhetoric, let's say, continues, I don't rule out the development, even such a development of events. Yes, it would just be the recall of the ambassador, and not that the person is not Moscow's man. He is not Moscow's man. He is Pashinyan's man.